Blitzers, it's Ronan. Welcome back to the channel. We got two games today we're reviewing. The first here in Yamato Harbor by Rene, and then we have Terry Hestes, who is both with tier 9 and 10 TDs. Obviously, Rene here is driving the magnificent E3, probably arguably the best TD in tier 10. And wanted to highlight both these games because I watched them and they make me think of one thing. Too often in Blitz, there's a lot of different types of TDs. You have your grill, which is your traditional sniper. You have heavier TDs, etc. And you obviously have the heavily armored TDs like the E3 and the T30, which is not heavily armored, but it's got armor. And oftentimes we see those players play those tanks really, really far back, even though they have no real business being very far back. And as you see, what you're going to see here with Rene is an absolute dissection of this team. Now, he didn't have a lot of help, and the people he was shooting maybe not have been very good. But Rene pushes with the E3 here in Yamato right up the middle. Now, I will tell you, this can come to bite you too. But Rene knows what he's doing, and what you get by pushing with a TD or having it be not in the back line, I don't advocate that a TD is now used as like a front line. And Rene gets away here, in this game with, he does 7K damage very, very quickly. But what you get with pushing with the TD is, one, look at this thing. The E3, the front armor of the E3 is arguably the best in the game other than maybe the T95. And the reality is you have a ridiculous cannon in terms of alpha, in terms of damage. Look at how easy it is to shoot the E100 there. And Rene is just picking apart this E100. Now, the problem with pushing with the E100, the E3, is you have very, very poor rear armor. Your rotation speed is very slow, etc. But the benefit, if you do it right, is you could just cause maximum damage here. This grill, you saw Rene took out, opening shot was 1,000 HP damage on the grill. There's the other grill. Hits it for nearly 1,000, and then it catches him on fire. And then he's going to finish him off. This game was over in about 2 minutes. Rene did 7K damage. And it was, frankly, because he didn't play in the back lines. Now, again, I'm not advocating you go front line with an E3, but I don't think the position and the place of the E3 is in the back either, because its gun is not that accurate. 7,000 damage, 2 kills, 1641 base. I think this was Rene's second game with the E3. All right, a little bit of more of a tactical game here from Terry Hestes. Terry's in the T30. Again, probably arguably the best tier 9 TD. Although there's some other good, tier 9 has got some awesome TDs. Between the SU-122, 54, you have the Waffle, which is a fantastic, arguably the best TD in the game for a lot of its capabilities. You also have the Jag Tiger. So a lot of good TDs in the tier, but the T30 has what the rest of them don't have, which is it's got a turret that's got -10 degrees gun depression. It's got a terrific turret in terms of armor protection. It's fairly mobile. It has a big cannon. Still got the 640 alpha cannon, the 150 milliliter. So the place now Terry does start this off is fairly in the middle back line. Okay, you see everybody else. You got 2 at C, 1 and kind of 2 at B and 2 at A. By the way, when you look at a game like this, often the time they don't go well. And Terry starts us off by getting a couple of easy shots, knowing where the enemies are. And when you're here and you're trying to play strategically, that's really important. You want to know where the enemies are going to be, especially in a map like Dead Rail. Dead Rail is a map that if you commit to the wrong side overly and the enemy has you in a disadvantage, it's really, really hard to correct. So Terry took a couple of snipe shots. He's got one hit, but what you're going to see him here do, he's doing here, when he realizes the enemy is predominantly in the middle and then in C, is he's going to move up. Well, too often, I don't see people doing this. I think I see players staying exactly where Terry is right now and just sniping their way to victory. And that doesn't work. The T30 does have a good cannon, just like the E3. They are good cannons. They do a hell of a lot of damage, especially when you shoot a high explosive just like that into the T49. But you've got to get in a position to make shots. And I think both of these tanks have enough front armor, turret armor, etc., to allow them to play a good, basically like a second line heavy. I know I'm not saying a lot of things that are new to many of you, but just a reminder also for myself when I play this, that you do have to think of a mobile TD, a TD with armor, really should probably be up in the second line. And a simple way to think about this is just the accuracy of your cannon. I think if you're playing with a cannon that has dispersion values higher than 0.3 or higher, the probability of landing those shots from 400 meters is nil. Is not nil. It's low. You're gonna have to get pretty lucky, even with higher pen cannons. Whereas if you move in, 100 meters, 150 meters, or so, what you actually get is a much higher probability of landing shots. Your armor should help you defend you against the occasional, attack. And I think in the case of the T30, with a terrific turret, you could go haul down under a ridge, much like when you're playing heavy, but you just don't want to be in the front line. You don't have the armor of an ST1, or I think it's ST1, not STI, constant argument here. So that's where the most of these things come into play. And I think I want you to see how Terry now is in the middle here. And it is becoming a rout. It is becoming quickly a rout here. But Terry is able to get into a good position because he moved up. Not finally, he moved up. And I think one key thing with all the TDs, like Rene's match was crazy. You can just move up and just start shooting everybody. As we know, most of the time that doesn't work. But in the case of, this, this specific battle, Terry waited until he could, until he could get into position, and then he was able to push up, and you can just see what happens. Now the waffle here is really just trying to get a shot. And, this is a beautiful thing when you've got a 150 millimeter odd cannon. I mean, you're just going to clear that thing. You don't have to aim that hard. So you see, it's already a 5-on-1. But I hope you guys agree with me. Feel free to add comments in the chat whether you agree that you need to play certain TDs up. And if you have any favorite TDs, there are always exceptions to the rule. But I can tell you that the T30 and the E3 are two terrific examples of TDs that really deserve a place in second line, but not all the way in the back. Great game by Terry, 5,600 damage, 1,460 base XP, and 3 kills as well. Another mastery. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please give us a thumbs up, sub to the channel, and tell your friends about us. Thanks a lot.